importance of social media in this year's presidential race cannot be overstated. Currently, 72% of U.S. citizens of voting age actively use some form of social media, while 69% of Americans in the same group use Facebook alone, and that's according to data from Social Bakers. And recently, the National Black Cultural Information Trust published the Disinformation Info Guide for Black social media users. This 12-page guide was created to help Black communities combat disinformation on social media.
Yeah, this info guide focuses on Twitter, but it also applies to platforms like Facebook and Instagram. Here to tell us more is founder of the National Black Cultural Information Trust, Jessica Ann Mitchell Aiwuyor. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So just start by telling us, what is cultural disinformation?
Well, disinformation is the intentional spreading of false information with the intention of influencing or swaying public opinion. When it gets to culture, what is happening right now on social media is cultural disinformation, which is taking various aspects of African American culture, and bad actors are inserting themselves in our cultural conversations in order to spread disinformation.
And what is one of the biggest issues concerning disinformation online? I know you mentioned swaying public opinion.
One of the biggest issues is that people generally don't realize that it's happening. So we believe that we're talking with real people. Usually we are, but studies have shown and reports have shown that 9 to 15% of, for example, on Twitter accounts are bots. So that is an estimate of about 48 million fake Twitter accounts. So one of the biggest issues is the fact that we don't even realize that it's happening, and it's hard to trace often, especially by the common social media user. So what we're trying to do at the National Black Cultural Information Trust is spread public awareness and let people know what it looks like. Usually when you're encountering these type of accounts, they may not have a profile picture, or they'll use a stock photo or somebody else's picture. They'll have an abnormal handle that ends in a lot of different numbers or letters. If that's not always the case, sometimes these look very realistic, but these are just some preliminary things that you can see about the social media accounts that can help you get a heads up as to what you're encountering.
And how does this impact the Black community, especially during an election year? I remember back in 2016, there were fake Black Lives Matter pages created on Facebook. And as you mentioned, fake Twitter accounts interacting with users, and they think it's a real person.
Well, it affects us in various ways. Pew Research recently put out a report that says 23% of social media users believe that they've been or that they can be influenced by what they see online. That's just what people believe. That doesn't even really get to the fact that we are overwhelmingly influenced and swayed by what we see on social media. So what happens is various Black communities are super hyper targeted, and it does have an impact on the way that we think, because with cultural disinformation, again, it is attacking or inserting itself within our cultural conversations, which has to do with how we think about elections, how we think about voting, how we think about ourselves and each other as a community. So it has a really big impact on the way that we think. And again, one of the biggest issues concerning that is we don't realize that it's happening most of the time.
And you also warn people about digital blackface. What is that, and where does it happen?
Oh, so you mentioned the fake Facebook accounts from 2016. One of the biggest perpetrators of digital blackface was this account called Blacktivist, and it had over 300,000 Facebook fans, even more Facebook fans than the the official Black Lives Matter account had at that time. And it was completely fake, created by bad actors. And it was a case of digital blackface, meaning that this account was pretending to be a Black person, organizing on behalf of Black people all the time. It was there sowing discord. So digital blackface happens in a lot of different ways. Recently, Twitter also took down a number of fake pro Trump accounts that were supposed to be from Black voters. So these are different accounts that are pretending to be Black or African American that use our vernacular in order to appear real, but they're actually not a African American or Black person.
Wow, just another reminder not to believe everything you see on social media. All right, so tell us, where can we learn more about this social media guide?
Go to nbcit.org/info guides, and it'll take you directly to the disinformation info guide for Black social media users.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. A lot of great information.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. All right, you guys, stick around. We'll be right back here on BNC Morning.